When it comes to money, most of us are just taught how to play the game, right? But what if you could be the one making the rules? That's what we're diving into today, that massive mindset shift from being just a player to becoming the one who designs the entire game.
So let's just kick things off with a really big question. Think about it. In this huge game of money, are you a player or are you a rule maker? Seriously, are you a piece on the board or are you the one deciding where the squares go? Answering that one question, that's the key to everything we're about to unpack.
All right, here's the game plan for how we'll get from player to rule maker. We'll start by figuring out the difference between the two. Then, we'll get into how to produce and own systems, use leverage to build whole worlds, and even how to influence the rules themselves. And it all wraps up with that final, all-important mindset shift.
Okay, let's jump into Section 1, Player or Rule Maker. It's simple, really. Before you can change your role in the game, you've got to know where you're standing right now. And really, it all boils down to this one thing. Are you mostly a consumer or are you a producer? Think about it. Consumers are the ones buying stuff, paying for services, and basically working inside systems that somebody else built. Producers, on the other hand, they're the ones selling the products, providing the services, and, crucially, owning the systems everyone else uses.
And you don't have to look any further than Apple to see this in action. It's just a perfect example. You've got millions and millions of people lining up to buy iPhones. They're the consumers. And then you have Apple, just one company, the producer, who collects a little piece of value from every single one of those sales. And all those little pieces, they add up to billions.
So here's your first action tip, your first challenge. Start asking yourself this question, maybe every day. How can I create something today instead of just consuming? And listen, this doesn't mean you have to go start a Fortune 500 company tomorrow. Nope. It could be as simple as writing a blog post, learning a new code, or kicking off that little side hustle you've been thinking about. The whole point is to just start building that producer muscle.
Okay, so becoming a producer is a huge first step. But the real game changer, the next level, is when you stop just making things and start owning the entire system that makes them. And that brings us right to Section 2, Produce and Own Systems.
I love this quote. It just nails it. The common man works in a system. The wealthy create systems. Think about that. Most of us, in our day jobs, we're cogs in a machine someone else designed. The rule maker, their goal is to be the one who designs the machine in the first place.
So what do we even mean by systems? Well, it's way more than just a single company. We're talking about things like financial systems, banks or investment funds. Or operational systems. Think about how a franchise like McDonald's can be copied over and over. And of course, the big ones. Digital systems like Amazon or Google, these giant platforms where other people build their businesses.
A crazy good example of this is what Mukesh Ambani did with Jio in India. He didn't just come in and say, hey, our phone plan is a little cheaper. No way. He changed the entire system. He offered internet for free, which was unheard of. And just like that, he rewrote the rules for the entire telecom industry. Everyone else had to scramble just to keep up and play his new game.
So the action tip here is to start thinking like a system designer, even if it's on a small scale. Can you create a business model that's repeatable? Or what about an investment structure that works automatically? The goal is to build a little machine that keeps producing value for you, even when you're not physically there turning the crank yourself. All right, so now you're thinking in systems, which is awesome. But how do you make that system massive? How do you scale it beyond just what you can do yourself? The answer, my friends, is leverage. This is the secret sauce. It's the tool that rule makers use to multiply their impact, like 1,000 times over.
And leverage basically comes in three flavors. First, there's other people's time. We're talking about hiring a team. Then there's other people's money, getting investors or loans. And finally, the big one today, technology. Using code, software, and automation that can work for you around the clock, 24/7, without ever getting tired.
I mean, look at someone like Elon Musk. He's a master of this. He's not on the factory floor building every car, right? Of course not. He leverages the time of thousands of brilliant engineers. That's OPT. He didn't fund Tesla with his pocket change. He raised billions from investors. That's OPM. And the factories themselves? They're packed with AI and robots working nonstop. That's technology leverage. He uses all three.
So, here's the challenge for you. Stop trying to be the only engine in your enterprise. Your real job is to be the architect. Design a system where money, people, and technology are all working for you, all at the same time. That's how you multiply your own effort into something massive.
And this brings us to the absolute top tier, the black belt of rulemaking. Once you've got a system and you've scaled it with leverage, the final boss move is to create your own little economy, a world where other people can build their dreams on top of your platform.
Just think about the App Store on your iPhone. Apple didn't make all those apps, right? They built a mini economy where thousands of developers could. Or Amazon's marketplace. It's the same idea. These companies didn't just build a product, they built the entire stadium. And now they're charging admission for millions of others to come and play on their field.
So the action tip is to think about this. How can you become indispensable? How can you build something, a platform, a service, maybe even a community that other people come to rely on? When you become the foundation for others, that's when you start to create your own gravity.
And once you have that kind of power, the power to create your own economy, that leads you to the final level, the most powerful one of all, actually influencing the big rules, the ones that govern everybody. This is where the game leaves the business world and enters the world of policy, regulation, and, yeah, politics.
And the ultimate example of this? Think about the U.S. Federal Reserve. Just by changing interest rates up or down a tiny bit, they change how expensive it is for everyone to borrow money. For you to get a mortgage, for a business to get a loan, everything. That one move changes the rules of the entire economic game for millions of people. Now that is rulemaking on a whole other level.
Okay, look, most of us aren't going to be the head of the Federal Reserve. I get it. But the principle is still so important. To really be a rule maker, even in your own life, you have to understand the rules of the bigger game you're playing in. That means taking the time to learn about financial policy, regulations, the forces that are really pulling the strings.
So look how far we've come. We've gone all the way from just being a player on the board to building systems, to becoming an influencer. But, and this is the most important part, none of it, absolutely none of it, is possible without the foundation. And that foundation is a total, complete shift in your mindset. And this is what it all comes down to. The player mindset? You're working for money. You're playing inside the lines someone else drew. You're reacting to what happens. But the rule maker mindset, that's totally different. You own assets and systems that work for you. You design the rules of the game. You influence where things are going next. It's really the difference between being a passenger on the airplane and being the one in the cockpit flying the thing.
And that leaves us with one last big question. A question for you. You don't have to go out and change the entire world tomorrow. But if you were to start right now, today, making that shift from player to rule maker, what's the very first rule you would write for your own game?